Hello, we're reading again. Fireside reading. Cue the intro.
Here we are. Welcome to Fireside Chats, and today the book is
The Treasure Hunters
by James Patterson.
The
Let's
first book
start.
in the series.
Reading by Josh, Danny, and Dave. Let's go.
Okay, here we go.
Prologue. Lost at sea.
Let me tell you about the last time I saw my dad. We were up on deck, rigging our ship to ride out on what looked like a perfect storm. Well, it was perfect if you were the storm, not so much if you were the people being tossed around around the deck like wet gym socks in a washing machine. We had just finished taking down and tying off the sails so we could run on bare poles. Lash off the wheel, my dad barked to big brother Tailspin Tommy. Steer her leeward and lock it down.
This is the storm.
On it! Tommy yanked the wheel hard and pointed our bow downward. He looped a bungee cord through the wheel's wooden spokes to keep us headed in that direction. Get down below, boys, batten down the hatches. Help your sisters man the pumps. Tommy grabbed hold of whatever he could to steady himself as he made his way down into the deckhouse cabin. Just then, a monster wave lurched over the starboard side of the ship and swept me off my feet. I slid across the slick deck like a hockey puck on ice. I might have gone overboard if my dad hadn't reached down and grabbed me a half a second before I became shark bait. Time to head downstairs, Bick. My dad shouted in the raging storm as rain slashed across his face. No, I shouted back. I want to stay here and help you. You can help me more by staying alive and not getting the lost under. Now hurry, get below. But go! He gave me a gentle shove to propel me up the tilting deck. When I reached the deckhouse, I grabbed onto the handle and swung myself around through the door. Tommy had already headed down into the engine room to help with the bridge pump. Suddenly, a giant sledgehammer of salt water slammed into our starboard side and sent the ship tipping wildly to our left. I heard wood creaking and we tilted over so far I fell against the wall while our port side slammed the churning sea. We are going to capsize, I could tell, but the loss rightened itself instead. The ship tossed and bucking like a very angry beached whale. I found the floor and shoved the deckhouse hatch shut. I had to press my body up against it. Waves kept pounding against the door. The water definitely wanted me to let it in, but that wasn't going to happen. Not on my watch. I cranked the door's latch to bolt it tight. I would, of course, reopen the door the instant my dad finished doing whatever else needed to be done up on deck and made his way aft to the cabin. But for now, I had to stop the loss from taking any more water, if that was even possible. The sea kept churning, the loss kept lurching, the storm kept sloshing seawater through every crack and crevice it could find. I started panicking because I had a sinking feeling as in we're gonna sink, that this could be the end. I was about to be drowned at sea. Is 12 years old too young to die? Apparently, the Caribbean Sea didn't think so. I waited and waited, but my dad never made it aft to the deckhouse cabin doors. Through the forwarding windows, I could see waves crashing across our bobbing bow. I could see the sky growing even darker. I could see a life preserver rip free from its rope and fly off the ship like a donut-shaped frisbee. But I couldn't see Dad. I suddenly realized that my socks were soaked with seawater that was slopping across the floor, and I was up on the main deck. Back! I cried out. Tommy, Storm! My sisters and brothers were all down in the lower cabins and equipment rooms, where the water was undoubtedly deeper. They were trapped down there. I dashed down the 4 steps into the hull quarters as quickly as I could. The water was up to my ankles, then my knees, then my thighs, and finally, my waist. You ever try to run across the shallow end of a swimming pool? That's what I was up against, but I had to find my family. They weren't in the engine room, the gallery, or in my parents' cabin. I knew they couldn't be in the room because its solid steel doors was locked tight and it was totally off limits to all of us. I slogged my way forward as the ship kept rocking and rolling from side to side. Whatever wasn't nailed down was thumping around inside the cupboards and cabinets. I heard cans of food banging in the plastic dishes that were knocking over clinking coffee mugs. I started pounding on the wall in the narrow corridor with both fists. The water was up to my chest. Hey, you guys! Tommy, Beck, Storm! Where are you? No answer. Of course, my brother and sisters probably couldn't hear me because the tropical storm outside was screaming even louder than I was. Suddenly, up ahead, a door burst open. Tommy, who was 17 and had the kind of bulging muscles you only get from crewing on a sailing ship your whole life, had just put his shoulder on the wood to bash it open. Where's Dad? He shouted. I don't know, I shouted back. That's when Beck and my big sister Storm trudged out of the cabin that was now their waterlogged bedroom. A pair of 3D glasses was floating on the surface of the water. Beck plucked them up and put them on. She'd been wearing them most of the time since her mom disappeared. Dad on a safety line? Asked Storm, sounding as scared and worried as I felt. All I could do was shake my head. Beck looked at me. Even through her 3D glasses were shading her eyes, I could tell she was thinking the same thing I was. We're twins. It happens. In our hearts, we both knew Dad was gone. Because anything on deck that hadn't been tied down had been washed overboard by now. From the sad expressions on their faces, I knew Storm and Tommy had figured it out too. Maybe they'd been looking out a porthole when that life preserver went flying by. Shivering slightly, we all moved together to form a close circle and hug one another tightly. The 4 of us who were the only family we had left. Tommy, who'd been living on the boats longer than any of us, started mumbling an old sailor's prayer. Through death waits on the bow, will not answer to him now. I hoped he was right, but I had a funny feeling that death might not take no as an answer. The end. Whoa, not so fast. You didn't really think that was the end, did you? If I were dead, how could I be telling you this story? Okay, fine. Beck says she could have taken over, that writing is easier than drawing, whatever. Scribble a picture or something, note to self. If I ever have a ship of my own, do not call it the Lost, because that's exactly what and where we were, lost at sea. I guess we should be glad Dad didn't name his boat the Sunk, the Drowned, or Titanic the Second. When the storm finally called, the 4 of us had somehow survived. For the moment, anyway. Yes, the Lost was still leaking. We all had seaweed in our shoes, and the ship's shore-to-shore radio was dead. But we were still alive. Unfortunately, we couldn't say the same thing about Dad. He was definitely missing, gone. And none of us were sure what had happened to him. He went overboard, said Storm matter-of-factly. She's 2 years older than me and Beck, and she's a genius. Her IQ scores are off the charts. She's also kind of socially awkward, and she is always spouting stuff people really don't want to hear. He's dead. Probably drowned. Hang on, I say. We don't know that for certain. Storm hesitated. You're right. The sharks would have eaten him before he drowned. I probably would have taken a swing at anyone else who said that. But that's just the way Storm is, and I knew she was as sad as the rest of us. What made Dad's disappearance even more depressing was the fact that 3 months ago, our mother had disappeared too. She went missing in Cyprus. Those shady dealers probably shot her, was what Storm had blurted out back then. One of them had a Uzi submachine gun hidden under the left flap of his tan, double-breasted trench coat. There were dried Tzatziki dip stains on the lapels. Did I mention that Storm has a photographic memory? Long story short, without a mother or a father, Storm, Tommy, Beck, and I were now officially orphans drifting across the Caribbean Sea in our very own slowly sinking orphanage. Of course, we weren't always this miserable. Not to brag, but 4 months ago, we were probably the most incredible family anybody could ever meet. Not because of anything any of us did, but because of who our dad was. Professor Tom Kidd. That's right. The Tom Kidd, the world-famous oceanographer and treasure hunter. The guy who found the 1962 wreck of the Spanish galleon, Nuestra Señora del Mar de Oro, off the coast of Barbados. It was loaded with gold coins, bars of silver, and stacks of Colombian emeralds. In Asia, he uncovered thousands of pieces of ceramic pottery dating back to the Ming Dynasty in the hold of a sunken cargo vessel. Off the coast of Cyprus in the Mediterranean Sea, he brought up a treasure chest filled with sparkling jewels and diamond-encrusted religious artifacts. And we were his crew. We were treasure hunters too. Our parents homeschooled us and taught us how to survive in the world without iPods, iPhones, iPads, or Papa John's pizza. We're at least 2 grades beyond what we would be in regular school. Well, maybe not Tailspin Tommy. He's 17 and he spends a lot of time on personal grooming. He's probably somewhere around his regular grade level. I have never been to a mall. Beck has never had a mani-pedi. Tommy didn't need a gym membership at Bali Total Fitness to pump up his pecs. And Storm can out-Google with our onboard computer because she remembers every web page she's ever surfed across. Yup, ever since Beck and I were 3, our home and our school have been this incredible 63-foot-long sailing ship. This is where we learn to cook, take karate lessons, Dad has a black belt, and practice navigating by the stars. The Lost had taken us to more ports and countries than any of us can remember, except Storm, who, like I said, remembers everything, even what kind of food stains you have on your raincoat. 9 years later, it's totally normal for Beck and me to read a treasure map, go on a deep-sea dives with our dad, and help him dredge up priceless Viking shields from an 11th century shipwreck in the Skoldevelv Narrows in Denmark because a museum in Oslo is willing to pay top dollars to add them to its collection. Why isn't normal throwing around a baseball in a backyard? Grass feels funny under my feet. Plus, when you throw baseballs on a boat, you lose them. The same way we kind of lost our dad. Yeah, until Cyprus and now. The perfect storm life on the Lost had always been extremely great. Too bad our happy life was going to end when we sank and everybody drowned. Unless, like Storm said, the sharks got to us first. Chapter 2. I think my parents nicknamed my big brother Tailspin Tommy because he usually has this seriously confused look on his face, unless he's navigating a ship. Then the guy is like a laser, completely focused. As the dray dragged on and the sun scorched away every single cloud in the sky, Tommy stood in the wheelhouse, squinting at his instruments and ignoring the blistering heat. This was hard to do. The deck was so hot, my feet were sizzling like sausages on a grill. We were totally lost, I asked. Definitely. Tommy nudged the wheel a little to the left. Are you laying in the course? Nah, I'm just going with the flow, bro. What? The equilateral current, the Cayman Islands, is directly in its path. So we're basically drifting. Basically. The GPS is dead. Didn't like being submerged in salt water. Beck, who was still wearing those 3D glasses, came up to join us. We're still taking on water, she reported. Big time. Tommy nodded. He remained remarkably mellow. No matter how much bad news we hurled in his way. No worries. I'm only burning fuel to power the generators and, keep the bilge pump batteries soaked. Now Storm joined us outside the deck cabin. She was eating a Twinkie she must have found floating around down in the gallery. The wrapper had kept the moist sponge cake from getting too soggy. We should have a funeral, he said. Tommy got that tailspin look of confusion on his face. For the dead GPS? No, Dad and Mom. They're not dead, I said. They might be, said Beck. Well, you don't have funerals for people who might be dead. You wait. For what? I don't know. Maybe till you have a body to bury? Storm shook her head. Not gonna happen. Sharks, to emphasize her point. She chomped off a chunk of her Twinkie. So we decided to go ahead and have a funeral at sea. Buck found Dad's favorite hat, this navy sweat-stained, beat-up old yachting cap, sporting golden anchors on a golden life preserver. Dad had worn the captain's hat so much the sun and salt water had faded the gold to popcorn yellow. Mom had bought the hat for Dad when he first started treasure hunting on his own boat. We took turns holding the hat and remembering Dad and Mom. Beck, who was technically the youngest by 2 minutes, went first. Thanks for giving us the best birthday parties ever, she said. And thank you for especially for that incredibly awesome coconut pirate head from Hawaii that made us smile on our birthday. Mom and Dad would always take me and Beck and me into the nearest port and let us pick out the coolest presents ever. My favorite was the samurai sword we'd found on Hong Kong. Instead of ice cream and cake, we'd always have whatever exotic dessert the locals loved best. Sometimes the desserts would be on fire, so we'd blow them out instead of birthday candles. I was up next. I remember the first time Mom and Dad took Beck and me on a dive. Not the first time we put on scuba gear, but the first time we went down to the real shipwreck. We both found these incredibly cool Roman coins. Later, I asked Dad if he had planted the coins so Beck and I could find them. Did he ask Beck? Would have probably wondered the same thing. I shook my head. Nope. He said the sea would never go easy on us. So neither would he, and neither would Mom. We found those coins fair and square, so we were officially treasure hunters. Thanks, Dad, for teaching us. We could handle anything the ocean or life threw at us. Except this, said Storm, opening up her arms to take in the ship, the sea, and the enormity of her generally sucky situation. We all stared at her. Sorry, she mumbled. No worries, I said, because I liked the way Tommy sounded when he said it. Your turn, Storm. Okay. Well, remember that time we docked in the cove right next to that 90-foot yacht, the HMS Snobby Snot? I nodded. The rich kids whose parents couldn't figure out how to get their fancy diesel engines running. Right. Anyway, Dad was on the deck cleaning up a dagger he'd found in a sunken pirate ship. It was such a hot day, I jumped in for a swim. That's when the bratty boys on the yacht started with the walrus and blubber jokes. Tommy laughed. I remember that. Dad clenched the dagger between his teeth. grabbed a rope, and went swinging over to their yacht, pirate style. Beck picked it up from there. Then he said, "You folks look like you're having some engine problems. Too bad you're miles from the nearest mechanic. Just about the only person who might be able to help you is my beautiful daughter, the pretty swimming down there." Storm was biting back her tears, so I went ahead and finished the story for her. Because, just for fun, Storm Kid has memorized the maintenance and repair manuals for just about every seagoing craft there is, including your floating mansion. And then you fix their engines. Only because Dad asked me to, said Storm, trying to dry her eyes with her knuckles. It's okay what we beautiful daughters do. Okay, Tommy, your turn. Tommy fumbled with the hat in his hands. Okay, thanks, Dad, and thanks, Mom, for everything. We all nodded, because that pretty much summed it up. Tommy tossed Dad's hat into the sea. We all stood at deck watching it float away. There's something else you should know about Beck and me. We sometimes erupt into what our parents used to call twin tirades. Of course, when Mom and Dad first called it that, we didn't even know what a tirade was.
Tirade.
So, Mom, our homeschooled ELA teacher, made me look it up. Tirade. A prolonged outburst of bitter, angry words. Basically, there's a lot of shouting and snippy name calling. The names I come up with are way better than Beck's. I'm the writer, she's the artist. And our twin tirades aren't really prolonged. In fact, they usually last about 60 seconds, and then we're done. They sort of are like a summer squall in the Bahamas. Lots of thunder and lightning, and then a minute later, the sky's completely clear. Anyway, Rebecca, I call her that only when I'm mad, and I burst into a twin tirade. While we are lugging bailing buckets up from the engine room. We need a plan, Beck, she shouted, coming to such an abrupt halt in the deckhouse that water sloshed out of both of our buckets. Tommy has a plan, I said. We ride the currents up to the commands. That's where the treasure is. I'm talking about the bigger picture, Bickford. Yep, she only calls me Bickford when she's angry too. I thought you said we needed a plan, not a picture, Rebecca. That is what I said, and it has to be the absolute best plan, not the second best, the best. Well, who's going to decide what's absolutely best for us? We are, and by we, I said, do you by any chance mean you, Miss Bossy Pants? No, you numbskull. Beck's face was redder than a boiled lobster. If I meant me, I would have said me, not we. What about Tommy and Storm? They're part of we and us. No, they're not. Do the math, Einstein. We're twins, not quadruplets. I mean us, our whole family. Then why didn't you say so? I already did. When? Just now. Really? Yeah. Oh, sorry. That's okay. Are we cool? Totally. And just like that, our twin tirade was done. Here is a picture of their twin tirade. Tirade. Together, we made our way out of the cabin and into the wheelhouse. Tommy said Beck. Storm, I called. We need a plan, we shouted together. Cool, I'm down with that. Storm emptied her bailing bucket over the side and joined us on the poop deck. What's the plan, she asked. First, we survive, I said. Okay, how's that gonna happen? Easy, said Beck. Mom and Dad taught us everything we need to know. Storm nodded, and soon Tommy was nodding too. We'll need to start rationing the food and drinking water. I'll work up a spreadsheet on the computer, and I'll check out the stars tonight. Triangulate a little. Make sure this current is taking us to where we need to be. The two of them turned to Beck and me. Then what? They said together. It looked like our big brother and sister were ready for Beck and me to take charge of this barely floating disaster? Well, I said, we keep doing what we've always done. Treasure hunting? Without Mom and Dad, said Storm. Why not, said Beck. It's our family business, I said, completing her thought. Yeah, that's something else twins do. We just need to find Dad's treasure map for the Canadian dive. Oh, and don't forget, we already know how to do everything that needs to be done. We can maintain the ship, we can fish and forage for food, and Tommy can navigate us anywhere on the 7 seas. He nodded as humbly as he could. True. And Storm, you can handle all the computer stuff and evaluate potential new treasure sites. Storm added, I can cut deals with suppliers over the internet, said Beck. Once Tommy fixes our satellite dish. Top of my list, said Tommy. Soon as we reach port, satellite dish and a cheeseburger with fries. We don't really need any adults to keep this business afloat, I said. Besides, does anybody here really want to give up treasure hunting? Do any of us seriously want to live a boring landlubber life filled with schools, strip malls, and frozen fish sticks? We all shook our heads. Beck tossed in a gag me now gesture. The truth was, none of us could ever be happy on dry land, not after having spent the bulk of our lives adventuring on the high seas. Heck, we'd even met pirates, real ones, not the wax kind at Disney World. In a way, we kids were like wild things in this picture book my dad always read to Beck and me when we were little. The one where an ocean tumbled by with a pirate boat and a boy named Max sailed off through the night and day. We can do this, said Beck. Definitely. No doubt, echoed Storm. I stepped forward. All those in favor of keeping the Kidd Family Treasure Hunters Incorporated open for business, raise your hand. The end. Chapter 3.
See you next time on
Fireside Reading.
Good night, everybody. See you soon.